What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another Tottenham update, and we have Sean Butler here to join us. How we doing, Shawnee? Long time no see on the channel.
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Good to be back. Good to see you. And yeah, looking forward to whatever the Tottenham updates we got to discuss. I'm coming in blind. I don't know what's going on. It's Saturday, so I haven't really been paying too much attention.
Yeah, to be fair, there's been a lot of different sources, Matt Law, Paul O'Keefe, and different sources talking about a lot of different things, Spurs news. But you might have seen the first bit that we're going to talk about, and it's regarding Radu Dragushin. It's his comments from his agent, this agent that never shuts up, literally, from the build-up of us signing him. This guy literally is always got something to say. And the quote is, he must have patience. He has two important players in front of him. In the end, he'll find space. The coach has said many times that he doesn't want to play a back three. He knows better, but he concedes a lot of goals for Tottenham. Playing with three gives you more security, then you won't concede as many goals as he does. Tottenham concede a lot of goals from set pieces, and I think Dragushin will find space in the future because Tottenham need his power. If he doesn't play, we'll have to think of other solutions. But at the moment, I don't think so because he only arrived in January. Then you only know in life. Let's hope not, but you never know. If he is told that he's going to continue as backup, I don't think Dragushin will stay and not play. So what do you make out of that?
Yeah, look, I mean, I guess the agent is just doing what he thinks is in the best interest of the player, but it comes across a little bit amateurish from an agent to be saying that. You don't really see that sort of stuff too much from the bigger agencies that represent more of the kind of the creme de la creme of the footballing world. So I feel like he's probably just, it's his main client and he wants to keep him in the zeitgeist. But I don't know. Like, to me, look, I think Dragushin, yeah, look, he's got to feel a little bit unlucky when he sees he could have gone to Bayern Munich and Eric Dyer's playing in a Champions League semi-final. But you've got to keep one eye on the bigger picture here and don't be too short-sighted. We haven't had that many games. And I think that Dragushin's been really unlucky that if we'd had him from the start of the season, he would have played plenty because of that whole period when we were without them. But ever since we brought him in, we haven't had any issues, touch wood, with regards Van de Ven or Romero. So, look, he's just going to have to wait until he gets his chance. But he has had a couple of chances. And to be entirely honest, I know he's been played on the left. Ange thinks if you're a centre-back, you shouldn't be right or left. You should just be a centre-back. But I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I think that you are more comfortable in a position. When we saw him on the left, he wasn't particularly special.
Yeah.
But look, next season, hopefully, if all goes to plan, we're playing in the Europa League. So there should be plenty of opportunities. And there's always an injury to Romero. And I think Van de Ven is the sort of player who, with his style of play, is also going to pick up injuries frequently. So I don't really think there's anything to worry about from Dragushin's point of view.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it from that perspective, but to see a player who's just come in January and you've got the agent piping up like this saying, oh, if he's going to continue as a backup, we're going to, not stay. I just think that's a bit too much from an agent to be getting involved in that stage. I mean, I get it if it's been like a year, a whole season, but he's only come in January. Do you not think like this agent's just being a bit over the top here?
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah. And that's been the tail of the tape with this guy since before he signed, during the signing process, and ever since. He just likes to talk. I don't know. Like I say, it comes across a little bit amateurish. And I wouldn't be surprised. I know that there's rules around agents poaching other players' agent or from other agents or whatever, but I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure it goes on in some regard, whether it's a player saying, hey, listen, maybe you should have a chat with CAA base or whatever. But if that sort of thing continues, I wouldn't be surprised to see at some point a parting of the way, because it just doesn't come across like it's, people would start to think whether or not it's Dragushin that's actually leveraging that and using his agent to vocalize his own disapproval. And that's not good either, But like I say, I think that it will all work out, and I think he'll get plenty of minutes next season. And look, there's a lot of arguments people are talking loads about Romero being at least tested in the six. I don't think that will happen, but if it did happen, then there's obviously minutes there even before the end of the season. So yeah.
I mean, I've been talking about that Romero in the six, and I think this weekend is probably the perfect opportunity for it. After the last 3 games and 3 no-shows, essentially, why not try Romero in the six? Bissouma's not working there. Højbjerg's not working there. Bentancur's not working there. So, I mean, with nothing left to play for, really, apart from confirming Europa League football for next season, why not stick Dragushin right centre-back and put Romero in the six? I'm all for it.
Listen, I mean, I've been calling for a monster six since before Ange Postecoglou managed his first game. I kind of always looked at the options that we have and think that there are a lot of jacks of all trades in there, but no masters of one. And I do think that six requires one. I'm not sure if Romero's the guy, but in terms of does he tick a lot of boxes, I don't think there's a better passing centre, or there's one or two better passing centre backs in the Premier League. But he's in the top 95th, 96th percentile across the top 5 leagues for his passing. He's got the aggression. He's controlling that aggression more and more now. He's definitely fights for the badge and is a leader. And sometimes I think having a midfielder, having your captain, having a leader in that midfield role where you can anchor and set the tempo of the game and stuff. I'm not sure if it will work. I don't know if he personally would want to compete. Not that every player who plays for their club has to play for the same position for their country. There's a few examples of players that that don't, like Alonso, Camavinga, Valverde, maybe John Stones, but most players do play for in the same position. I don't know if he wants to compete with the likes of McAllister and Palacios or Fernandez for the Argentinian role. But look, as an experiment, I'm all about it. And when we've got 3 games left, and you'd think not much risk, because even if we finish 6th, we're still going to qualify for the Europa League. Then on that basis, I think, yeah.
It's not actually definite that, because if United win the FA Cup, 6th is Conference League.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh, okay. I thought that United were guaranteed it because even if they qualify, even if City win the cup, they would get it just as the runner-up spot. But okay,
no, I think the rules have changed. I think the rules have changed in that aspect. But I don't know if you saw Ange's embargoed section last night. He was talking that he needs to make a lot of changes to the squad, and very interesting. The embargo section is on the channel now. So Paul O'Keefe and Matt Law have both come out with really interesting stuff today regarding exits from Spurs this summer. Paul O'Keefe says that Spurs have identified over a dozen players that they are willing to listen to offers for this summer. And Ange Postecoglou is also looking to add to his coaching staff this summer. He goes on to say Ben Davis is a player that Spurs are willing to listen to offers for. However, Bentancur and Kulusevski are 2 that they're looking to keep. And Matt Law says that Richarlison is amongst the players that we're looking to listen to offers for. And Ange is definitely looking for an out-and-out striker this summer. And as well as Richarlison, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg and Emerson Royal are on the transfer list this summer. And they also say that if an attractive offer comes in for Yves Bissouma, we'll be listening to it this summer. So this could be a massive revolving door this summer. And I think that all the players on that list that they're looking to potentially get rid of, I'm all for, to be honest. And even Yves Bissouma, because I was a massive fan of Yves Bissouma at the beginning of the season. But when you look at it now, he's had 6, 7 good games at Spurs in the space of 2 years. It's just not good enough. And how long are we supposed to keep on to these players for and just hope they turn good? So I think if this is all is true, I'm all for it.
Yeah, look, I think when you look at the list, I mean, if he's just talking about first team players, I think that you could easily find 12 in there, presuming that Sessegnon's probably on the chopping block as well. Like, I've been saying for quite a long time that I didn't think, in terms of like first team starters that come in and meaningfully change the first 11 week in, week out, I think that you're a proper 9, a winger, and a 6 away. I don't think you're going to improve the back line too much. I still think you need a fullback who can compete with Udogie. I don't think, I think a goalkeeper is necessary as well. But then in that midfield battle, like you say, for me, Bissouma and Skip is like surplus to requirements for me. I don't think he's going to cut the level. So the only value in keeping him is homegrown. But then above that, I've got no love for, or no sort of inkling to keep Bissouma. I just don't think he fits what we're looking for. And if you do keep him and move him into a kind of 8, if you do go and improve in the 6, then you've got a lot of players in there that are going to be competing for 1 or 2 spots. For me, Pape Sarr is the only sort of 6 or 8 that we have that I would 100% think that we have to keep, because I see the ceiling there. And I think that Bentancur, I love Bentancur as a player, and I just think that maybe he needs to figure out how to adapt into this system. But certainly in the 6, you can make the argument to cut Højbjerg, Bissouma, Skip, and then bring in a 6, and then maybe bring in, I don't know if Lucas Bergwijn, if we know where he's going to play, but yeah, I'm up for some serious turnover. But the problem is, mate, is that how much is realistic? Is Tottenham actually going to be able to churn through 12 or 11 or 10 players realistically? How much time does it take to haggle over each one of these deals? Do we have enough people that are able to go and find the buyers? have reasonable conversations? Daniel Levy, is he going to do his usual thing and hold on for too much value? All the while, you've also got to figure out new homes for the people that are returning: Reguilon, Ndombele, Joe Rodon, Sanchez, Tanganga. Just lots and lots and lots of work just on outgoings. And the summer's not that long because of
Euros,
the Euros and everything else, right? So then you have, how much time do you get to bring in the rest? But yeah, you hope there's a lot of work to be done, but in reality, I just don't see us getting through that many players.
Yeah, I get that. But even if you don't get all the business done this summer, at least the club's direction and the club's vision is, aligned of what I'm thinking. Because I think all these players, the Richarlisons, the Bissoumas, the Emerson Royals, they're not fit for purpose for what we want to do, right? On a long-term basis. So even if you don't get rid of all of them this summer, at least that's the plan long-term, to wean these guys out and bring new guys in. We all know this project ain't going to come to fruition overnight. And I think anyone who thinks, I was of the thinking earlier on, but I'm not thinking that now, that if you think we're going to be in a title race next season, I think, in the famous words of Danny Kiriakou, you're probably very deluded. So
Yeah,
at least we're on the right path.
Ange does, right? Ange is talking about, for words from the horse's
He
mouth.
thought that this season.
Well, exactly, yeah, 100%. So, but you have to take him on his word. And I was having this kind of conversation on Twitter earlier, or it was last night. I feel like, I understand why people have their question marks around Ange. I do get it. Like, you can't fully believe until you've seen it. And given the way the season story has panned out, there's more reasons to question it now than there was after 10 games. But for me, you can't sort of open the oven and check on a Yorkshire pudding too soon. Otherwise it will end up flat, right? You have to let it cook to be able to judge it. And for me, you have to give this guy, if he's here for the long term. Now, I want him to be. I'm fully behind him. I know that we're going through a tough time. I know some Tottenham fans are already questioning it. I'm fully behind it. I hope Levy is, but you can't let him have his way. You can't give him what he wants. Pull the trigger on Emerson and the likes of Richarlison and Bissouma, players that are quite popular among the fan base, and then also not then let him play, like not let it play out. If you're going to back him with the outgoings and with the incomings, then you have to give him enough rope to be able to see what happens. And I just worry about the impatience of our owner, the impatience of the fan base, whether we kind of back him a little bit, we say, yeah, go on, then do what you want, get what you need, and get rid of these players and stuff. And then 2 months into next season, if it's still a little bit shaky, if we then, if the noise for change starts to happen, then the next manager is going to come in and have a whole bunch of potential square pegs for round holes, because Ange is basically saying that he's not questioning the technicalities of some of these players. He's like, they're all good players, but I'm looking for people that are buying in. So maybe it's more around the willingness, the mental aptitude, how much of these players on board. And, so are we then shipping players out that are good players, but are just not willing to buy into his system, but would be willing to buy into the next? So my point is on this rant, is basically, if we're going to do this, then you have to let the jelly set. You have to let it play out and give the guy enough time to really let his system be embedded. And I just hope that the fan base and everybody else can give him that.
Yeah, essentially it's trusting the process, and it's not going to be a short-term process. We all thought that, I think, when Ange came in, and then we saw the first 10 games of the season, everyone thought it was going to be a fast-track process. But I think we're all, after seeing pretty much after those 10 games, I think if you take the league table, we're 10th in the league or even lower than that. So I think it goes to show, like, how much of a long-term project this actually is to get us to where we want to be. And I think you're 100% right. If you give them the signings, outgoings and incomings, even if it doesn't go right, even for the first part of next, we got to see progression. Don't get me wrong. We got to see progression. But if it doesn't go the exact way we want it to go, we still need to stick with it. And I'm 100% behind Ange, just like you. Just one word on Dejan Kulusevski. I was talking to Sim yesterday on the match review of the Chelsea game, and I was kind of putting him in the same bracket as Yves Bissouma, where you saw those first 6 months under Antonio Conte, unbelievable goal contribution after goal contribution. But last season, this season, it's just been very hit and miss from Decky, hasn't it? And very inconsistent. So Paul O'Keefe says he's going to be one of the ones to stay, but would you be too mad if he was one of the ones that we sold?
No, I like Kulusevski. I know he splits opinion as well. A lot of people think he's not got enough or he's too predictable. But I think as a forward, he offers something that not many other forwards who play wide can offer, and that's the sort of strength and the ability to be an outlet. You know, you think back to games like Luton away when we were hanging on with 10 men and he was the only man up the pitch, and he was put in such a shift in that scenario where he kept the ball away from our goal for 10 or 15 minutes. That's not Bugsy. That's not Bugsy. She's quiet.
That's Lily.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so like I just think that I understand that he's got there's question marks about his versatility, like his predictability, but I do think that can be trained out of someone. And I do think that he offers something that, you know, you're not going to find in the transfer market too easily. Whereas there's, you know, forwards that can take players on a 10 a penny, the likes of Brennan Johnson's, you know, Coley Osho at Burnley. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of wide players that can take players on. The difference between whether they're good or great is their ability to have output, right? But in terms of the specifics of what Kulusevski can offer, I think it's worth hanging on to as a squad player. Not to sit here and always think he's going to start, but to be one of the 5 or 6 forwards that are part of our makeup next year.
That's fair play. Moving on, let's talk about Giovanni Lo Celso. Estadio Deportivo says that Giovanni Lo Celso is unhappy with his role under Ange Postecoglou and has decided to leave Tottenham this summer. Many teams have already inquired about signing the midfielder. I don't think this is a surprise to probably me or you or anyone watching, but I do feel sorry for Gio because you're looking at the underperforming midfield week in, week out at the moment. No matter who he picks, they seem to be underperforming. And he's just sitting there, and every time he comes on, he seems to play really well. You know, against Chelsea, he came on for 7 minutes of stoppage time and he created more chances than any Spurs player on the pitch that night. And I just feel like he's probably our best performing midfielder at the moment, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, he is. And the fact that he got, you know, if you're going to drop Maddison, I was like all about dropping Maddison. I think you have to have a meritocracy, and Maddison's not been at it. But then you bring Kulusevski into the central role and didn't do anything either. He was really poor against Chelsea. And you kind of go, well, is the justification that Ange knows he's on his way out? Well, okay, if that's the case, then why are you starting Højbjerg?
Yeah.
You know, like you can't square that circle for me. If you're not going to give someone minutes because you know they're on the way out, then you should be consistent in that regard. I don't know what the answer is, but yeah, for me, Lo Celso, when he's played this season, when he's fit, he's a wonderful player. And I think whoever does get him next year, it will be a Spanish team and it will probably be a 10, 12 million pound bid. They're going to get a really, really top player as long as he can stay fit. But, you know, when he plays in Spain, when he's been on loan, his injuries have never been a problem. But, you know, at Tottenham, they've been an ever present. And I don't think you can justify giving him a contract extension or anything like that. As much as I like the guy, I like the player. You know, there's a number of players that, for me, you just don't give extensions to because they spend more of their time injured than they're fit. And Lo Celso was one of them. So yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher why he went with Kulusevski, and even then after that still didn't give him any more minutes. But yeah, shame it hasn't worked out. I hope he goes on to have a good career somewhere else, and I hope we can get some decent money for him. But I'm not expecting, you know, eye-watering numbers.
Yeah, and Ange in the embargo section that I was talking about before did say that, you know, players are going to have to move on, and you're thinking, wow, these players are actually really good, but some players just got to move on to further on the process. And I guess he was alluding to players like Giovanni Lo Celso because, you know, top talent, but probably does just have to move on to move forward with the process, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it's not the only ones. I don't. People keep telling me I'm wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure Sessegnon's contract is up, but there's an option to extend. Some people are saying there's one more year left. I think it's the former. I think either way. I don't think you keep him around. He's not fit enough. People like Manor Solomon. You know, if you look at Manor Solomon's stats, even though it's a tiny sample size, his stats in terms of output, XG, all that sort of thing. If you could have annualized that out over the season, he would have been really, really helpful. I think that people are overlooking and understating how much of a miss Perisic and Solomon were for this season. But when you look at Solomon, you know, if a bid comes in for him, and it won't be a lot, but if it does, even though I think he's a good player when he's fit, you look at his career, he is injured more than he's available. And I think that, you know, Tottenham need to probably just try and, what's the point of having a player if they're never available, no matter how talented they are, right? So, you know, there's a few players in the Tottenham squad that you just look at and go, good player, would love it to have worked out. But for what we need right now and what's best for you, probably mutually, we should all shake hands and try and find you a new home.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should mention Manuel Solomon because he's who I was going to bring up next. But
Okay.
Graham Bailey says that Manuel Solomon is not considered to have a big future at Tottenham, and the club are open to selling the winger this summer. So I guess it just prescribes what you were just saying.
Yeah, like I say, yeah, good player, really good, really tricky player. But I think it was always an opportunistic signing from Levy. If it works out, brilliant. You've got a freebie who's creating value. If it doesn't, well, it's not cost us very much, and we can probably sell him for a few million. On the other side, and I expect that's what's going to happen. So lots of turnover. I don't know what's going to happen with Timo Werner. I personally think that I'm okay. Like the inability for us to score goals at the moment. There's nobody that really gets a free hit from me in the forward line. I know this is really controversial, and I'll say it with the biggest pinch of salt ever. I'm massive fan of Sonny, huge fan, love him to pieces, and he is the world's best player in a certain scenario in football when the ball gets put over the top. But I think that in this system, his value is a dwindling resource. And I think that it's always better to sell a player of his value a season too soon than a season too late. And I feel like if Tottenham were to find if a monster bid was to come in from Saudi Arabia because Mo Salah, they can't get Mo Salah anymore and they want to go to another statement signing, then if they were to come in and put in a big offer and Sonny was on board with moving, of course it would take that side of the kind of coin as well. I wouldn't necessarily be against it. I wouldn't be against losing Richarlison, Sonny. I wouldn't. Timo Werner, I don't particularly care. I don't particularly think there's value in doing him. I think that we could seriously go for a big rebuild at the top end of the pitch because sometimes it's horses for courses, and I just don't see Son's value as teams create this template to play against us. I think increasingly low blocks, Sonny on the left doesn't really work as much. Sonny in the 9 back to goal doesn't work. How many times the ball's going to be put over the top where he's at his very well best? Fewer and fewer times. So, like I say, there's anyone in the forward line. I think I'm okay with conversations about any of them, to be honest.
I disagree a bit with what you're saying on Sonny, and I don't think like Daniel Levy sanctions a move for Sonny as well, just because of
That's
how
true.
much money he brings in from
Yeah.
all the marketing in the South Korean market and stuff like that. The Bleacher Report actually did an article on Heung-min Son this morning, and they said that Son is keen to finalise his new contract, and the forward has 1 year remaining on his current deal, but Spurs do actually have the option to extend it a further year.
Right.
So if the terms aren't agreed by then, that Spurs will push the button
Trigger
on that.
anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That trigger that
I don't
extension.
expect him to leave. I'm saying this more as like a hypothetical. I love him to pieces. I think he's a brilliant player. I just look at it and kind of think, horses for courses. Does this system pertain to the very best version of Sonny? I'm not sure it does, but
Maybe
I
not,
don't expect him to leave, and I'm happy for him to stay.
maybe not the very best version of Sonny, but I think that he's been one of our most influential players this season. And you're talking about the quality of the player, the only world-class player, like genuinely world-class. Maybe Romero's on the cusp of it at the moment. Maybe Mickey van de Ven can get there. But I think Heung-min Son is literally our only world-class player that we have in the squad. And I think he has had struggles recently. But I think when you look at the whole season objectively, he's been the most or one of the most influential players that we've had with the amount of goal contributions that he's scoring. I think the captaincy served him well as well. So I'm 100% all on the Sonny train, keeping him 100%.
No, that's fine. I listen. I know I'm going to be in the minority on that one, 100%. I would just say that his best version of Tottenham this season was in the first 10 games when the template hadn't been figured out, and then since the sort of turn of the year when we've struggled and we're in that kind of bottom half of the table form, I feel like increasingly it's been a while since I've seen Sonny, even against Aston Villa when he scored 2 goals and got an assist. I didn't think he had a great game.
Mm.
I just feel like, like I say, I don't expect it to happen. It's more just me kind of hypothesis around if there was a monster bid. Because look, Tottenham, if we're going to need to do this massive squad rebuild, then when you look at the numbers of how much money Tottenham create on the books this year, we're doing this in your WhatsApp group last night. I feel like there's not going to be massive funds. Second year outside of the Champions League, the revenue is what it is. The squad, like the squad cost ratio rules are coming into play. You'd imagine that we're going to have like maybe £100 million budget, like we usually do, give or take,
Plus
absent
sales.
all plus sales, right? And so, if you're trying to get 300 million quid together to go and do everything that Ange wants, how are you going to find it with sales of Brian Hill and Solomon and Bissouma and Højbjerg? It's not really going to happen, right? So Richarlison, maybe that's 40 million quid, but certainly you could go a long way if there was a monster bid for Sonny. And like I say, Sonny, at some point, like we had to deal with losing Harry Kane. At some point, Sonny's going to be 34 years old, 35 years old. It's not too far away. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Just my
Yeah,
take.
you do have to start thinking of the succession plan 100%. But I think just like he brings in so much money to the football club.
Yeah.
Essentially the David Beckham of South Korea. So I just don't think that Levy would sanction any deal. And I think he's going to sign a new contract anyways. I got a feeling Sonny's going to be here till the end of his career, like one of those kind of players.
Possibly, probably. Yeah.
Potential incoming, Toney. Graham Bailey says that Tottenham are keen on signing Toney this summer, but are waiting on Brentford to set their asking price. The club are not willing to pay more than £40 million, seeing as he has 1 year remaining on his contract. He's been linked with a lot of top clubs before he came back from the gambling ban. Since he's come back, all those kind of links there's been cold water poured all over them. I don't think Arsenal are seemingly very interested in the moment. I think they were looking and setting their sights on someone like Alexander Isak, with Newcastle struggling with their finances at the moment. So what's your opinion on these Toney links? Would you welcome him at Spurs?
I would trust Ange's take on it. I feel like as much as I've got my take on who I fancy as strikers, Ivan Toney, I think he's a brilliant striker. I think he's no nonsense. I don't really hate the fact that he's got a personality that's a bit arrogant or cocky. Obviously, he's got problems, and I'm not sure if they're fully behind him. How can you ever really fully put that stuff behind you? But I would like wait, and if Ange is on board it, this is one of those kind of 50-50s where I don't really know how to read Toney's personality. The fact that he was twerking for Arsenal, the fact that he never really apologized to the Brentford fans for what he put them through and for his absence, comes across a little bit as like a bad egg. But in terms of his abilities on the pitch, I think he's up there with the very best in the league. And so if you're looking for output, you're going to get some with him. But does he come with it, with a lot of baggage? And is Ange going to put up with it? Because he's already said that Ange prioritizes the content of someone's character above everything else. So if Ange has the conversation with him and signs him and goes for it, and it becomes a story that has legs, then I'd be on board it, because I do rate the player, but I'm not sure if I rate the person.
That was Bugsy that time. I'm joking. No, I completely agree with you. I've been saying the same things all along with Ivan Toney. It's just something about his personality that doesn't sit right with me. All those things that you were saying, but there was also other things in there where he was on holiday and he was saying F Brentford into the camera and all that stuff. And you can imagine
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, this was a few years back, and these kind of things, they just don't sit right with me. And if he starts doing that while he's at Spurs, let's say he's at Spurs and things aren't going right, and then other clubs started to get interested in him, and then he starts twerking for them. I mean, like, the fan base is going to go absolutely potty, aren't they?
Yeah.
I love him as a player. I think he's a top player like you, but I don't know. There's just something about his attitude and his mentality that I think that's the reason why Arsenal are not going for him.
Yeah, maybe. Probably. And like I say, if Ange really does,
like.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. He's happy to cut the bad apples out, isn't he? And I think if Ange really is about, he needs players, reading between the lines on what he said last night or yesterday, it comes across to me like he's kind of acknowledging that some of these players, whether they're good enough technically, but not only are they not a good fit for the system, but maybe some of them are not buying in and not willing to really go for it and be a part of, questioning it or whatever. And so if that's what he's saying, like, I don't care if you're that good, if you're not on board, then I don't want you. That's a demonstration of how he prioritizes personalities, right? How willing are you to go the extra mile? And if Ivan Toney is this guy who's all about himself, I don't see it happening, mate, to be honest. I don't think it will happen. The more I talk about it, the more I think Ange will be like, nah, not for me.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that one. But I think that is all we have today. So, Sean, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a long time coming, really long time coming. So everyone do go and subscribe to Spurs Talk Show. What's coming up on the channel this week? Or this weekend?
I'm not sure what time this is going out at, but I do have a show this evening just to chew through whatever's going on. Probably a lot of what we just covered, to be honest. And then, yeah, maybe a post-match fan show after the game tomorrow. Not looking. I was going to do a watch along, but I don't think I can put myself through 2 hours of having to grin and bear the way it's going to be. So,
yeah, pray for me because I'm on the watch along tomorrow. But Sim's going up to Anfield tomorrow, so pray for him more, I guess. Yeah, he is.
Wow. Yeah, long way to go. Not for me.
Yeah.
No chance.
Yeah, but thank you, Sean. We'll speak to you all very soon. Thank you all for joining, and let us know your comments, well, your thoughts in the comments section below. But like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.